from the past.
Please listen carefully.
CoCo.
Welcome to the CoCo Crew Podcast. A delicious adventure into the world of retro computing news and information. Featuring the Tandy Color Computer.
Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?
CoCo.
All right. Welcome, CoCo Cruisers. This is officially episode 99 of the CoCo Crew Podcast. You might have noticed there's a little gap chronologically since episode 98. Well, we had a little gap, and then we had one episode about a year ago. And then I think we still left it open that we might come back occasionally for, whatever reason. And I guess we've been away long enough. We were starting to talk about it amongst ourselves, and then we got a few people asking, maybe you could do one more. And I guess we got talked into it. So anyway, don't get your hopes up too much for a continuance, but this is what we're offering for now. One episode to kind of catch back up and sort of see what's going on and what we think about it, that sort of thing. So that's what we're doing here. So we're mid-December 2024. We've got Tandy Assembly coming up in about 9 months. CoCo Fest is coming up in 5 months, beginning of May 2025. So it's kind of some things continue to march along. So let's see here. I am, of course, John Linville, of course, joined by Mr. Boise Pete. Hello, Boise.
Hello, everyone. It is good to be here after a long hiatus.
Of course, Mr. Mike Rowan. Hello, Mike.
Hello, everybody.
Let's see. We've also got Neil Blanchard. Hello, Neil.
Hello, all you CoCo fans.
And joining us, kind of a little bit of a special guest, we've got Mr. Ron Klein. Hello, Ron.
Hi, everyone. John, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's good to get the band back together. Has any of you guys been up to anything interesting? Has got anything you'd like to share or tell us about? I haven't been up to much myself. I did have a few interesting acquisitions over the course of the year or whatever. I did get one of those boxes of miscellaneous things, including some diskettes from the estate of dear Mr. Bjork, peace be upon him. Nothing too amazing in there. There are a couple of diskettes I haven't had a chance to check out. I haven't taken the time to check out because, I don't want to accidentally mess them up with the old equipment. I do believe they are the diskettes that were used to demonstrate at a CoCo Fest the whatever was available for his attempt at the Last Ninja. Like I said, I haven't broken them out and not sure what to do with them, given Steve's obvious concerns about copyright and such. I'm not really sure where that leaves us, and sort of respect for somebody's wishes versus the law versus what the community wants. Well, that's a lot to sort out, but I don't have anything right now. Well, I have the diskettes, but I don't know what's on them. Let's see, other interesting acquisitions. I did reach for my wallet and paid the price for one of those kit color computer 2s that was sold on eBay. I guess probably by Brian Weisler. The kit arrives. It looks pretty good. The box is pretty beat up. Looks like maybe the box has been rained on or something like that. But the stuff inside seems to be intact. Haven't decided what to do with that. Part of me definitely wants to break it open and assemble the CoCo 2. Part of me says, well, that would not result in something that's worth the price paid for it. So we'll see how I feel about that in due time. But one other somewhat interesting acquisition I got also off of eBay, one of Ed Snyder's Mega Mini MPI. I assume that it works, but I haven't really used it yet. It's got the sound hardware on it. But as far as I know, there's no available software that makes use of the sound hardware. So I don't have anything to run on it to test the audio hardware. So it was really just an acquisition of opportunities. But maybe someday somebody will correct me and provide me with the required software. I guess we'll see. Just those three major items, probably a few things here and there, but nothing that really comes to mind. In addition to that, that's me. That's what I've been up to. Not a whole lot, but here, this or that.
So I have been somewhat absent, given the fact that I am in the throes of work and also finishing up my dissertation, which I plan on having that complete in the early spring. Once that's done, I intend to jump back onto the F-256. There are some new developments there that I think we're going to talk about later, so I'll leave that for then, but that's where my focus is at.
Cool. That's an interesting project there. Not quite a CoCo, but it's related to CPU and definitely some new hardware that might be available for folks. And maybe there'll be some people that adopt that hardware for part of their hobby. That would be interesting. Like I said, I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. So,
What I've been doing, I haven't gotten any new acquisitions, but nothing CoCo related, but I have been spending a lot of time organizing my CoCo collection. And that's been fun, going through everything I have here and, putting everything in groups, disk controllers, drives, memory cards and software. So it's just nice to have it all together and not scattered, cleaning everything up, testing it, that sort of thing. So it's been fun.
I mostly keep my stuff together, but it's all together kind of in a big pile. not really useful.
That works.
But,
At least you know where it is.
I know where it is, sort of.
I've been spending all my spare time building a new office so that I can have space for my CoCo stuff. So hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months, I'll be moving into that and
That's good.
start doing something again.
Cool. That sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Ron, how about you? Got anything to kick in there?
Not CoCo so much. I did pick up in another retro hobby area that there's a Chicago group for retro computer things. I follow that. And there was a gentleman actually up in about an hour from me up in Wisconsin that designed his own single board computer based on a 6309. He's interested in getting some software for it. He's been doing all the hardware development and he's got some little bit of software ported to it. I think his next big thing is working to get Flex running on it. So that's something that I actually picked up a board from him. I've been messing with it a little bit. I've always wanted to learn more assembly, and the CoCo is a great machine to do that on. But for some reason with this board, it's kind of gotten my interest a little bit more. So there's a lot lacking that it doesn't have like the CoCo does. Obviously, video, things like that. But the basics as far as learning assembly, it's a good little board to experiment on. So I can share links if anyone's interested with that. He's got a GitHub site and a Facebook page, but it's like I said, not CoCo, but it's still fun to play with, and it kind of gets me in there with the 6309. So
cool. Well, it's good to have something to focus around. All right. Well, that's probably enough to whet everyone's appetite and to kind of give you a feel for who's come back to the table. So why don't we call that our introduction, and maybe we'll take a little break, and then we'll be back with a few announcements.
Whoa! What do you want, mister?
I'm looking for gold.
Shoot, mister, we ain't got no gold around these here parts. But you can look all you want.
We got plenty of lead and tin, though.
Who are you? What you got there, stranger?
It's the new J&M Systems JFD CoCo disc controller. It sets a new standard in performance and quality. Its built-in digital phase lock loop data separator means no need for adjustments, ever. And the card contacts, pure gold. Woo-hoo! Best of all, the JFD CoCo is plug compatible with the original CoCo and the new CoCo 2.
How much, stranger?
Just $139.
Wait, where can I get one?
From J&M Systems, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Tandy keeps red, red like the brake key. Tandy keeps green, green like the TV. Tandy makes all of your dreams come true. Tandy's got the magic of CoCo too.
TRS-80 color computers are better than ever. We improved our most popular family computers with a compact white case, low-profile electric typewriter quality keyboard, and reduced the system price. Come see the new TRS-80 color computer too.
Tandy makes a product that's brand new. Tandy's got the magic. Tandy's got the magic. Tandy's got the magic of CoCo too.
Okay, CoCo Cruisers, thanks for holding on. Welcome back, and now we're going to have some announcements. Of course, you are listening to the CoCo Crew Podcast. We, of course, are available on X, formerly known as Twitter, with the, well, it used to be called a Twitter handle. Now, I guess, is it called an X handle? At CoCo Crew Podcast. That's at CoCoCrewPodcast. If you want to exit us, we might X back. I don't know. Anyway, of course, we are still available on Facebook with a Facebook group of the CoCo Crew Podcast. That's 4 separate words. Come and join us. Talk to us. Tell us what's going on. Ask questions. Tell us what you want covered. Whatever. There's still a certain amount of activity there, even though the regular episodes have ceased. Let's see. We are still available on Apple Podcasts, available on Spotify, and on TuneIn. Alexa, play CoCo Crew Podcast. I think that will still work. Of course, we do still have video converted versions of our podcasts, probably including this one once I get to it. Available on through a playlist available on YouTube. So if you prefer to get your listening done through YouTube, feel free to come and check us out. We, of course, are available through email. If you want to reach out to all of the hosts on the show, SHOW, S-H-O-W, at CoCoCrew.org. That's CoCoCrew.org. We are also all available through podcast at CoCoCrew.org, PODCAST, and through feedback, FEEDBACK, at CoCoCrew.org. If you want to reach out to us individually, I'm available as John, John, at CoCoCrew.org. Neil is available as Neil, Neil, at CoCoCrew.org. Mike is available as Mike, Mike, at CoCoCrew.org. Boise is available as Boise, Boisy, at CoCoCrew.org. And I'm pretty sure Ron is still available as Ron, RON, at CoCoCrew.org. Coming up January 25th of 2025. I'm not really sure what this is, but the virtual Tandy Retro Show, which is some sort of online event, online only, not in real life, but available, sponsored by Glenside and the CoCo Nation folks. It says TRS-80 community comes together to demonstrate new hardware and software and more. A virtual event to showcase Tandy and Radio Shack systems, including cousins and clones. Hopefully they'll have a good event. It's on the 25th of January if you're interested. Following that, May 2nd through 3rd, 33rd annual last Chicago CoCo Fest. CoCo Fest is scheduled May 2nd and 3rd, 2025 at Holiday Inn and Suites, Chicago, Carroll Stream, Illinois. Admission is free for the entire 2-day CoCo Fest event this year. I assume that's still more or less the standard CoCo Fest event from years past. Sounds like Sunday is mostly just for packing up this year. I think I read that somewhere. Coming up June 20th through the 22nd of 2025, we have the Vintage Computing Festival Southwest at the Davidson Grundy Alumni Center at University of Texas, Dallas. Tickets and tables will go on sale in January. I think this is a pretty decent event. I have not been to it myself. I think I've heard Boise recommended in the past. They had a section that was Tandy Assembly sponsored section.
It's a great event.
So pretty good event, a great event. I think you should check it out. Coming up September 26th through the 28th. These dates are official now. Tandy Assembly 2025, Springfield, Ohio. It's a great event. Everyone that comes seems to enjoy it. I certainly have a certain amount of interest in this event. I have taken over from Mike as the president of the organizing body. And but it's a cool event. We have a lot of participation, especially on the Z80 side. It's a good crowd, a good level of technical interest and ability. Excellent auctions the past many years. I think this is as close to the good old feelings that originally brought me to CoCo Fest as anything else out there. So if that appeals to you, I'd be happy to have you come along.
Hey, John, I'd like to add one too. The Midwest Gaming Classic is April 4th through the 6th. That is a fantastic show for gamers, fans of pinball. But the big thing too is their retro computer area is getting bigger every year. And it's pretty well represented by some of the color computer stuff. So for folks that are interested in that find themselves in the Milwaukee area, that is a great show. Very family friendly as well. So if you have young kids, there's a lot of stuff to do there.
Sounds like that's always sounded like a good event. It's a little far for me to get there, but if you were in that part of the Midwest, that's definitely something that you should consider going to. That's probably enough for our announcements. Why don't we take another short break? We'll be back to discuss a few more topics.
Mr. Turtle, how many megabytes does it take to get a good deal on a CoCo hard drive?
I have no idea. Ask Mr. Owl.
Mr. Owl, how many megabytes does it take to get a good deal on a CoCo hard drive?
Let's find out. 10, 15, 20. It's 20.
Looking for a hard drive for your color computer? Ask the Owl. Owlware is the leading provider of hard drive systems for color computers, offering 20, 40, and 80 megabyte hard drive systems. Our complete hard drive packages include the hard drive, case with fan, SCSI controller, LR Owl interface, and software, fully assembled and tested. 20 megabytes, just $495. 40 megabytes, just $609. And an amazing 80 megabytes for just $875. All our drives come with a 1-year limited warranty, and parts and labor are covered for 90 days. We've earned our place in the market by providing products you can be proud of. Customer service, quality products, and sound design. For all of your hard and floppy drive needs, remember to ask the Owl. Owlware, located in Mertztown, Pennsylvania. Since 1994, Cloud9 has been making cool stuff for your color computer. Like the Cloud9 Mini Flash, a flash cartridge for your color computer or Dragon. The Mini Flash gives you a total of 4 16K banks of flash memory. You can easily flash ROM images into any of the 4 16K banks. Store your favorite DOS ROMs and game packs on the Mini Flash. And the Mini Flash is perfect for prototyping your own ROMs without the need for an EEPROM burner. The Mini Flash comes with flash programming software and test utilities. It's preloaded with HDB-DOS for DriveWire and 2 games from Retro Tinker, CoCo Dooku and Follow CoCo, so you can use the Mini Flash immediately. The Cloud9 Mini Flash works on all color computer and Dragon models and is housed in a high-quality injection molded cartridge case. The Mini Flash, only from Cloud9. Cool stuff for your color computer. Visit cloud9tech.com for details.
All right. Well, thanks for holding on. Welcome back. As I said, I have not been as diligent tracing all the various keeping track of all the various events and announcements in the CoCo world as I used to be. So we kind of have to fall back on a few more general topics so that we have something to talk about. So that's what we're going to do, I guess. I thought maybe we'd start off with a few updates on a variety of projects of interest that we might have somebody who knows something about. Projects of interest. How about Turbo 9? That was a cool project, basically re-implementing the 6809 on an FPGA platform, using it for some collegiate level research. Mr. Boise is involved with that project. Boise, what's been going on with Turbo 9?
There's been a lot of activity around it. Kevin Phillips and Michael Rywalt, who are the creators, actually published a couple of papers in IEEE around the Turbo 9, one for sure. And I'm working with them, collaborating them. I published a paper basing my work on the Turbo 9. So I can tell you that the Turbo 9 has become a legitimate processor, a legitimate product for hopefully being utilized in real world applications. And since it is completely compatible with the 6809, there's obviously the CoCo angle or the hobbyist angle. And that kind of ties into the other thing that is on our list, the F256. I don't want to get ahead of that, but anyway, the Turbo 9 is alive and kicking and being updated and worked on, and I think it is a very, very nice implementation of the 6809.
Pretty exciting. Nice to see some activity there and some recognition, shall we say, of some design qualities from the past that
That's right.
might be
Yes.
worth keeping alive or reinvigorating.
That's exactly right. I think that there's some value there in revisiting architectures that were probably ahead of their time and somehow got passed over.
Cool. Okay. Well, so kind of bumped into this next one, but I know you've been dealing with the F256 project, and I guess there was already an F256 and an F256 Junior. And then I gather that from some of the reading that the the board has been revised a little bit, or a new design or a new version of it has been released. So that's the F256 Junior, which is
Right.
clever. But so anyway, that's out and available. What else can you tell us about the F256 project?
There are a number of different things to talk about with this, specifically the fact that the F256 Junior is a junior version of the F256 Junior. It's actually an even smaller board. And that board it's different in a number of ways from the F256 Junior. It's similar in that it is a single board computer, but unlike the F256 Junior, which incorporated the 6809 or the FNX 6809 as an update processor separate on a separate board, the F256 Junior actually is mostly composed of FPGAs, and the actual single FPGA on the board will house both the graphics logic and the sound and all of the features, as well as the 6809. Now, currently, the F256 Junior is targeting the cycle accurate 6809 core that is out there for public consumption, but there is talk and work on getting the Turbo 9, which is the pipeline implementation of 6809, on the F256 Junior, and that is going to be, we think, an accelerant for good performance. On top of that, I should also note, and related to this, OS 9 Level 2 is working on the F256K and the F256 Junior, and should easily run on the Junior with a couple of enhancements that Stephanie Allaire, who's the creator of the product, is putting in. We've had great participation from some extra folks. John Federico, who's a CoCo guy, has embraced OS 9 Level 2 and is doing some graphics enhancements for this platform, as is Matt Massey, who is doing some basic 09 extensions for the platform. So it's really exciting work. It's a very performant system, and other people are coming on board from the CoCo, like Roger Taylor. Mike Rowan has an F256 Junior, or I believe a Junior. A couple of other folks who are CoCo guys, Henry Strickland is also on board. So there's a lot of activity happening in and around this platform and around OS 9 Level 2.
Cool. Well, that sounds pretty exciting. Something fun for people to dig into that might not just be, buying a toy to play with by yourself, right?
That's right.
Which is
That's right.
always a little better when somebody else wants to play.
It was great to see it at TND Assembly and get to play with it and see all of the different features that have been added to it. And it's, I'll tell you, OS 9 Level 2 just zooms on that thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, we did have it at TND Assembly, and Matt Massey was there and came over and gave a great demo. So thank you, guys.
So, Ron, we've got you around. This is your punishment for joining us. So you can tell us a little bit about what's going on or what's happening in the Cocoa Pie world.
Sure. Most of my summer's been tied up doing some road trips and things with my wife, doing some outdoor activities, but I did find some time to work on the Cocoa Pie project. And briefly, for those who are not familiar with that, it's something I started back in 2000. John, you were to blame for this, you and Neil. Getting me back into the community. I was interested in emulation, and the Raspberry Pis were first coming out. and wanted to get something running on one of those. So this project was mostly for me, just to have a CoCo at hand without having to actually bring one. Like when I would, I guess if I wasn't going to CoCo at home and somewhere else, it was just something to do. And that turned into basically pretty close to one-stop shopping for CoCo, Dragon, MC10 emulation, along with adding a bunch of developer tools and things like that, stuff the community uses. And it's kind of grown from there. So anyway, the latest version of CoCo Pi, which I've been working on, it actually now is more available to people that don't actually have a Raspberry Pi. One of the things that used to take a lot of time is when I would make a new version of CoCo Pi, I would hand compile a lot of the programs, do different things to get it all ready, and then make an SD card image of that so people could just download that and pretty much plug and play on a Raspberry Pi. Well, all that building takes some time. So what I did over the summers, I spent time writing automation scripts to do what I was doing manually all these years. That kind of became what's called the CoCo Pi installer project. And because of that, because a lot of this is automation of pulling source code down and building it, the side benefit is that folks that have Linux-based systems on other platforms, a lot of this stuff will work out of the box. It'll compile it for your platform and should run. So you could kind of resurrect some old PCs if you have them. If there's any other machines that can run Linux, even some of the scripts I have might work for people with Macs. And in addition to that, for Windows folks, if you install Windows subsystem for Linux, you can run damn near everything on that as well. And the nice thing is, if you build, let's say, Pi DriveWire under Windows subsystem for Linux, you can fire up the Windows version of MAME if you want, and they work together. So there's kind of a lot of benefits now to some of the things I'm providing with the CoCo Pi project. And if folks are interested, there's a GitHub repository on it with some documentation, and folks can reach out to me if they'd like, using the email address John provided earlier. There's other ways to get a hold of me as well. I didn't want to go into too many details, but that's more or less what I've been doing with the CoCo Pi project.
Cool. And let's see, the other thing I've got here kind of associated with you is the CoCo FujiNet. I see posts related to FujiNet on Facebook. It seems like there's some activity going on there. I'm not sure everything I see is related to CoCo, but sounds like there is some pretty good activity with the CoCo and FujiNet. Can you highlight that for anyone that's listening that might be interested?
I can provide a little bit of information. I do follow some of the activity on their Discord channel. The folks that are part of that FujiNet project, they're great. I know Boise got to meet up with some of them this past year, and they're working on FujiNet for a lot of different platforms. I'm very happy they embrace the CoCo. There is hardware available for the CoCo. It can run FujiNet. It is based on DriveWire for the back end part of it. So it's nice to see that product is still used today with all, it's been around forever, and it's the basis of FujiNet for the CoCo. There is hardware available that is stable, uses the Bitbanger port, but they are working on a bus or cartridge-based version of FujiNet for the CoCo. I don't think that's available just yet for public consumption, but there's developers working on it now. And I believe that'll be one of the very first bus implementations of FujiNet. So that's going to be neat to see. And for folks that are interested in FujiNet, again, they have a Discord channel. They have a nice online presence. They have a good website, some good documentation, and there's multiple people providing the hardware, the FujiNet hardware. So simple searches on Google, I can provide some links if you're going to have anything in the show notes for that. One of the people that's involved with FujiNet, Andrew Diller, he puts out a monthly summary on the progress of FujiNet, and he just released what he calls Rapid 13. I think that's the 13th update he's done. In fact, I think there's even a 13.1. He made some changes, and that's available online. And he does cover the CoCo along with all the other platforms. So folks that have other retro computers besides the CoCo, like the Apple, the Atari, maybe a Coleco Atom, these all run FujiNet. It's a neat project.
FujiNet's an interesting project, cross-platform, internet networking, executing the same programs across different hosts. It's pretty interesting. There definitely is some intellectually stimulating things going on there. And if your main thing with a retro computer is just to say, hey, this old computer can do everything that, this or that can do, then FujiNet's exactly your cup of tea. So
yeah,
cool,
I'll add that
Go
what
ahead.
Ron said. I've worked a little bit as I've had time with Thomas, Terry Holmes, and Andy and others. And they're just great folks. Really fun to be around. A great community of people. Very smart gentlemen doing good work. And the CoCo product it's based on DriveWire at the moment. It requires plugging into the back of the CoCo for the bit banger, but they are working on Jeff Pietmeyer is working on a model that is going to be bus only, which would be probably a lot more performant.
Cool. Well, something to look forward to. Okay, well, I guess those are probably community projects or whatever that we're aware of, and thought we might have someone with a reasonable amount of authoritative information on. So I think probably the next few topics are more in the flavor of traditional CoCo Crew group discussions or whatever. I'll say that we're maybe goaded a little bit into putting together ideas for an episode, and I was brainstorming a few ideas or whatever. If you're the kind of person that is maybe likely to maybe a little high strung or on edge, or the kind of person that might get angry about some old guys on a podcast offering opinions about hobby stuff that may or may not agree with what you like, this is the part where you can send all the stuff to me. It's kind of my fault for picking the topics. So hopefully that doesn't draw any extra heat, but if you're hot on the collar and want to blame somebody for the next few topics or discussions, I guess it'll have to be me. So with that said, grumpy old man topic number 1. I couldn't help but notice, looking around out the CoCo community lately, prompted somewhat by people posting eBay auctions on Facebook where I could see them. It looks to me like some of the CoCo related eBay auctions have gotten a little out of hand. I'm looking at a CoCo 2 with a couple of books, a couple of diskettes. One of the books is not even for a CoCo. The listing price, and great, it's a listing price. You don't have to bid that price, and you can just not bid at all. But opening their bids at $550 for a CoCo 2, and there's a couple of these listings. That seems, the term I would use is irrationally exuberant. Have you guys noticed any of these eBay listings that are like this?
I definitely have.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw another one that's a CoCo 2 that's for $250, which sounds better, but I'm not sure it is. In that case, it's a PAL CoCo 2. If you're in the United States and you want a PAL device, maybe that's worth a little extra. Still seems a little high to me. Then I found a listing for one Black Beauty joystick, and they were asking $110, but I see that had gone down to, I thought it had gone down, and it looks like it might still be there. Anyway, some of these prices seem more like the person selling them is assuming they're not dishonest. They're hoping to profit from nostalgia or something like that. I don't know. I hope you guys aren't paying these prices, I guess is what I'm saying.
I've noticed some of those prices too, John. I will say that shout out to Brian Weasler. He's been posting some stuff I see on eBay. He's trying to keep his prices pretty reasonable. In fact, I just picked up a CoCo 2 from him, and thank you for that. So hopefully people that are looking for equipment, maybe they will come across something from someone that is selling at a reasonable price versus what we're seeing right now. I hope the rest of the community starts to do things like this too across all the retro platforms and bring prices down and try to get stuff into hands of people that really want it. But you know, eBay's full of opportunists, so not too confident that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, eBay is what it is. And if people are actually paying these prices, well, that's the prices they're paying. But when I'm seeing listings with no bids, but super high prices, it seems like there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's making people think that it makes sense to list a CoCo 2 at $500, but I don't know. If that's you doing it, just take my advice. It's probably not going to sell at that price. Maybe I'm wrong, but that'd be my guess.
And you haven't even talked about the CoCo 3s on there.
Oh yeah, well I haven't even seen one recently.
Well, I'm looking at one right here. It's been listed for a while for a little over $1,200.
Oh,
that's with a sale. That's a 10% off right now.
You know, you wonder if someone's significant other that maybe doesn't know enough but wants to do something nice might be the ones they're targeting for ads like this, because those prices are just outrageous.
Yeah, well, it does seem like somewhere along the way, this podcast, maybe another podcast, maybe a couple more, kind of put the CoCo on the map, and maybe not in a good way. And so it seems like you say, the opportunists are out, and they've got us in their crosshairs a little bit. So whereas it used to be a kind of a good old boy club of some nice old men trying to sell their old computers, it seemed like some different motivations at play in the CoCo world, the CoCo market these days. So, like I said, if it sells, whatever price it sells for is what it was worth, right? That's how auctions are. If you're hoping to get in the CoCo market or to expand yourself in the CoCo market and you think eBay is the only way, well, I certainly would invite you to come to Tandy Assembly. We have a good auction with some good stuff, and I think the prices are pretty good.
For sure.
The CoCo Fest auction has traditionally also been a good place to buy some stuff. Probably save enough money. Given some of these prices, you save enough money to pay for your trip to Chicago or to Springfield, Ohio. Anyway.
Hometown Radio Shack.
Hi, I'm really enjoying playing games at the arcade. I was wondering if you had any arcade-style game controllers for the color computer.
Well, we do sell joysticks for the CoCo.
Can you describe them?
Well, they're plastic, fit in the palm of your hand. They have a plastic joystick, and there's a small push button on the side.
Do they have spring return?
Well, we also sell the deluxe joystick. It has spring return.
What's it like?
Well, they're plastic, fit in the palm of your hand. They have a plastic joystick, and there's a little push button on the side and one on the top. But we do sell some other brands, too.
What are they like?
Well, they're plastic, fit in the palm of your hand. They have plastic joystick, and there's a little push buttons on the sides.
Why play games with fragile, outdated plastic controllers? Move up to professional arcade quality with the Gamester. The Gamester is the ultimate 2-button joystick controller for your color computer, Dragon or Tandy 1000. It features a genuine arcade quality joystick with 2 large arcade quality cherry switch buttons on a single surface. It sits comfortably on your lap or on your desk. Select custom furniture quality paint or stain finishes. Choose a right or left-handed configuration. And now you have the option of light up LED buttons. Find out why so many others are delighted with the Gamester. To build yours, simply reach out to Neil Blanchard by email. Neil@CoCoCrew.org. That's NEIL@CoCoCrew.org. For true arcade action, it's the Gamester.
From the nation's capital, the CoCo Group, an unrehearsed program presenting inside opinions and forecasts on major issues of the day.
Tandy is proud to support the CoCo Group. From multi-packs to game cartridges, Tandy, because there is no better value.
And now your moderator.
Issue 1. It's Turbo Time. The Turbo 9 is a soft-core implementation of the Motorola 6009 that brings improved performance with modern processor approaches like pipelining and branch prediction. Kevin Phillipson and Michael Rywald's design targets a number of areas in industry, but retro computing communities like the CoCo have expressed interest in incorporating the 999 into the designs of a new color computer. Some in the CoCo community have expressed a desire for the 999 to also be implemented with Hitachi 6309 instructions. Question: should the 999 be compatible with the Hitachi 6309? John.
It would be nice to have, but I definitely am of the opinion that I shouldn't be telling other people what their project should be. In this case, I'm probably one of the few people in the community that doesn't really see the beauty of the 6309 in general, at least in terms of actually having software that is useful and usable and fun. I guess I'm a bit of a pessimist in that regard. And, so if Turbo 9 team wants to implement the 6309, especially if they see some utility in doing so, sure, that's great. Certainly wouldn't stop them.
Neil.
I feel Turbo 9 should be compatible with the Hitachi 6309 processor. Reason being, it helps reduce the risk of supply shortages having two different processors to choose from.
Mike.
I would say only if it's convenient. The speed of the 6809 with the Turbo 9 implementation is already going to be so much faster that I don't know that any of the 6309 instructions are going to make a large difference performance-wise. However, there is some code out there for the 6309 and it would add compatibility. But again, if it doesn't require a massive effort, then I would say yes, but I would understand if it was omitted.
The answer is no. While based on the 6809, the Turbo 9 has an opportunity to define its own set of enhanced instructions. Issue 2. CoCo Canada. The incoming U.S. President, Donald J. Trump, has suggested that Canada become the 51st state of the Union. Were such an event to happen, this would put our Canadian CoCo brethren on par with us. Here in the U.S., cross-border travel issues would cease to exist and access to CoCo Fest and other events would become seamless. It would even be plausible to host CoCo-related events in the newly annexed state. Question: in a world where Canada is a U.S. state, should the CoCo community consider a CoCo Fest North, and if so, where? John.
In the somewhat unlikely event that Canada gets annexed to be a 51st or whatever number U.S. state, should we consider having the CoCo Fest North? I think we should have one of those anyway. Having been involved in planning both CoCo Fest and Tandy Assembly, I know it can be a bit of a pain in the butt putting those together, and that's generally why people say, "Oh, we should have one in my backyard," and say, "Oh, that's great. You're going to plan it?" And then silence, and that's why they don't happen. So yeah, I think it'd be great having a CoCo Fest event probably in Ontario somewhere, or maybe Vancouver. I'm not sure where the real community is. That all the CoCo people that I actually know in Canada, well, not all of them, but most of them that are in Canada are in the Ontario region, kind of closer to Ottawa or Toronto maybe, or of course Niagara Falls. And those are all pretty accessible from the U.S., so those seem like good places to have them.
Neil.
I feel the CoCo community should definitely consider CoCo Fest North, and a perfect location would be in Niagara Falls. It would help CoCo enthusiasts talk their families into coming and make it a mini vacation.
Mike.
This is a tough one. If Canada became a state, the first thing that would happen was all Canadians would move south to warm weather. However, assuming that they're going to remain an independent country, I think they should have a CoCo Fest in the north, and I would pick Flin Flon, Manitoba.
The answer is yes. A Canadian CoCo Fest would be a welcome change of venue, especially if the Saturday night dinner would feature poutine and Tim Hortons coffee. Predictions. John.
Long term, in the end, we all die, right? And when we die, this all pretty much disappears, except for some very historical-minded people, perhaps. For 2025, well, I think most of us are going to be doing okay. We might lose another person here or there, but for the most part, people will continue to play with their CoCos. I'm sure people will show up for CoCo Fest. I'm sure people will show up for Tandy Assembly, and I certainly hope that the overlap between those two groups will get a little bigger as the CoCo people figure out that whatever reason they've had for avoiding Tandy Assembly is just not that good.
Neil.
The CoCo will continue to live on. With the original CoCo enthusiasts to all the newcomers, it will continue to grow as we enter 2025. Perhaps we might even see Farfall 2, with the working title, Farv got his CoCo 3.
Mike.
I predict that the price of vintage computers will go up once the new data is published on the survivability of 80s computers to electromagnetic pulse attacks. The collapse of the EU will also drive prices up, and the devastating Yellowstone supervolcano eruption will undoubtedly delay computer festivals across the globe. Now, you can be prepared for this by purchasing my freeze-dried survival food that comes in 5-gallon buckets. It lasts up to 25 years and can prolong your suffering and your family's for just $2 per day.
A well-preserved stash of AgVision terminals will be discovered inside of a long-abandoned feed store in eastern Kentucky, and John Linville will buy them all. Next month, artificial general intelligence in the CoCo. Are we close to a breakthrough? Bye-bye.
Let's step on to the next topic, the much sought after Mega Mini MPI. The MPI replacement from Ed Snyder came out, well, like 10 years ago now, I guess, at a time when people seemed to think that MPIs were not readily available. Maybe they still aren't. I don't know. Anyway, so this is the 4-slot model, which actually has, in the manual, there's a few other add-ons, features beyond just the traditional MPI. There's ways to route the audio signal, that sort of thing. And of course, it's got a couple of additions. It's got some serial ports available. It's best known, I think, for the OPL3 audio hardware. Popular enough that occasionally people pop up in the Facebook or whatever saying, hey, the website says these are all sold out. Do you know when there'll be more? This one went for sale on eBay and didn't seem to get a lot of attention. So I ended up getting it. But I thought part of the motivation for this piece of hardware, having the OPL3 audio hardware, came out at a time when people were claiming that the audio on the CoCo was the biggest disappointment, or lack of audio is the biggest deficiency with the CoCo. Everybody wanted audio software, but anyway, like I said, it's been out for like 10 years now, and nobody's written any software for it. Why not? Where's the software? So it seems like somebody should have had something available by now that would have made use of some kind of demonstration or game or something. I don't know. Is writing software for the OPL3 too difficult, or is there some other issue, like maybe the storage requirements would be higher than what's readily available? I don't know. What is the answer? Do you guys have any idea what the answers are for why there's a lack of software for the Mega Mini MPI's OPL3 player?
I think we've kind of had discussions on this in the past, but it seems to be a general problem in the CoCo community that it's always been hardware heavy and software light. I'm not sure what the reasons for that are, if it's difficult to find a starting point or a jumping point. I don't know.
I think the other problem is the availability of these and how many were sold. I don't know how many people actually have these.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem like ever since this came out, it was almost immediately practically unavailable, and kind of a drawn out. Can I get on the list for to have one made or whatever? And then of course, at some point, I'm not sure how many years ago now it was, but it's been a couple of years now. But Ed had a family tragedy that has drawn him away from paying attention to the CoCo community for a while. So I don't know what the numbers are on how many of these Mega Mini MPIs there are, and that may forever be a drawback or a detriment to anybody wanting to write software for these devices. There just may never be anybody else who really has the hardware to utilize it. I don't know. I've got the hardware now. I might be able to find a piece of software somewhere. Hopefully sometimes I'm fairly well connected to the CoCo community, so maybe somebody listening can point out something for me. Hint, hint. But beyond that, I don't know if I'm likely to write any software for this either. But rumor has it that I'm not all that talented with the music composition anyway. So
I'm not a sound guy in terms of programming sound systems. That's not something I do on a regular basis, but I can say that going forward, platforms like the F256 Junior have adopted some interesting chipsets that allow you to do MP3 playing very easily without a lot of CPU intensive intervention. And I think there's actually a cool MIDI chip. The name of it, model number, I don't recall, but it's very easy to get some nice sound effects out of it. So I think that going forward, on platforms like that, at least, you're going to be finding easier and easier ways to generate sound that won't require as much programming. And that may be the future, at least on those platforms, for sound.
Cool. Well, so if we have any people interested in programming, enabling some audio output, and for whatever reason they can't find a suitable platform on the CoCo, maybe they can move over to the F256 ecosystem and utilize one of the solutions available there. Either way, it's a good project to have if you're suitably motivated or suitably talented. Okay, well, in our last episode, basically we had gotten confirmation of the demise of Mr. Steve Bjork, peace be upon him. I can't help but feel like shall we say, the ghost of Steve Bjork still kind of haunts the CoCo community. There's still a significant portion of the CoCo community that reveres Steve Bjork and acts as if the code that he developed in the 80s that was somehow a gift to the CoCo world. Hopefully everyone realizes he was paid to make that stuff. Anyway, Steve was, like you say, a significant member of the CoCo world in the 80s. And he did kind of drag along and pop in and out of the CoCo world as it continued on the email list or whatever into the 90s and even the 2000s. I used to try to dance around it a little bit more, but I think everyone that wants to know or should know by now has figured out that Steve and I didn't necessarily get along. We could probably debate or discuss or speculate on whose fault that might be. But if you want to blame me for not getting along with Steve, well, that's fine, because it turns out Steve was, well, less than pleasant in a number of ways. We still see in the community people show up and whatever happened to Steve Bjork, or, oh, he was so awesome, he was amazing and whatever. And then you get a few people who actually met Steve Bjork and maybe realize that wasn't true, but still insist on what I call the beatification of Steve Bjork. And that's beatification is the process of turning someone into a saint. So I guess my question for the community or for the gathered wise men here is, does the beatification of Steve Bjork, does it continue to hold the community back from maybe moving past whatever instructions or whatever he may have tried to pass on to the community, whatever influence he had? Does seeing Steve Bjork as epitome of CoCo software development, does that hold us back here now in 2025 and beyond?
Steve has a legacy of writing software, and his name, I remember seeing his name on the first game that I got for my CoCo 2 Stellar Lifeline. And you have to give the man his due. And because of that, his name will be emblazoned on CoCo history forever.
True.
That said, as you indicated, Steve's personality was different. And we all have personality quirks, some more exaggerated than others, perhaps. I got along with Steve for the most part till at the end where we didn't get along. But that does not erase in any way his accomplishments and the things that he has given the community. And I think people coming into the CoCo community will see him as a major contributor. And irrespective of how he may have been to other people or treated other people, who knew him personally, whether good or bad. That is the Steve Bjork that the CoCo community is going to live with, the one that did all of these games. Now, he has his detractors, as we know. There's a particular criticism that Steve has gotten over the years from people who have glommed onto the idea that Steve wrote some checks that he couldn't cash in terms of his comments on the 1986 Princeton Rainbow Fest, saying that stuff he was working on for the CoCo 3 would make Zaxxon look like a Pong game. That did not necessarily happen. That has been sort of part of the community lore as well, right? And
Sure.
that is part of the parcel of Steve Bjork. But I think overall, if you weigh his contributions, regardless of what you think of his technical acumen or technical level of his achievements, they're a lot, right? They're copious. And we have to look at him in that light. So I'm with you. I think as far as holding back the community, I don't think so. I think he's going to be a part of it. Probably less so because he's no longer alive to contribute. But he also did some things, I think, toward the latter years. He did, I think, an assembly language tutorial series that might be up on YouTube, perhaps, or somewhere. And that's going to be utilized by people who are wanting to learn 1609 assembly. So you can't deny the impact of the man. He was very protective of his copyrights of his games, which that's his right to do. But in doing so, I think he denied people the opportunity years later to enjoy them. I don't know where that stands now. And now that he's gone, I don't know what. In fact, I would argue that probably doesn't stand at all, given the fact that his estate was sold piecemeal or pennies on the dollar from what it probably was worth. So I don't know what copyright standings there are, but I really wish Stephen, while he was living, would have given a lot more grace to allowing that collection of software to be made freely available for people to use.
I agree.
Well, no doubt. And that's is what he communicated that he would do to a number of people, is my understanding. He and I weren't that close, so so I don't know for sure what he said, but I don't know. That probably sums it up as well as I would hope. Whatever his motivations, he certainly had a prolific amount of contributions to the CoCo when it was still a mainstream computing machine. And he did continue to participate as part of the community for a number of years. He brushed some people more roughly than others. I guess I was one that he brushed a little rough. But, you know, like you say, he is part of the community, part of the history of the community. And I guess people are going to have their memories of the past, and sometimes memories of the past are a little rose-colored or whatever. I definitely would say that Steve Bjork is in the category of, you know, when people say don't meet your heroes, I think that should be the best warning. And of course, nobody's going to meet him now, but just keep in mind that the fact that somebody wrote some software for the machine that you liked years ago doesn't mean that they were a very nice person or that they did much to help you out later on. Anyway, well, that's probably enough. Like I said, I'm trying to find the best way to stuff my foot in my mouth here, and probably done enough of that. Anyone else got anything to say about Mr. Bjork? Peace be upon him. Yeah, okay. You guys always were a little wiser than me about that sort of thing. All right. My next topic should get a little more participation, and I've titled it simply Tandy Assembly is Awesome. Definitely, I was involved with Mike and Neil and a couple other folks on getting Tandy Assembly started. And I think it's gone pretty well over the years. And we moved from the original site in Chillicothe, Ohio, over to Springfield, Ohio, which we were at long before Springfield got some of the notoriety it got during the U.S. election here in 2024. I will say it's a pretty nice little town, a little Midwest Ohio town. Nice place to visit, friendly people, not too hard to get to from most places around, I think. The event draws, it does draw a little more heavily on the Z80 portion of the TRS-80 computing world, but we do have people that come that have expertise with the, pocket computers and Tandy 1000s and the CoCos, of course, and basically everything in between. Like I said, it's a pretty good vibe. Most of the people there are kind of on the a little bit serious side of the hobby. It's not just people who show up to clown around and talk about how goofy they are. They actually sort of take some pride in being retro computing hobbyists. And I really enjoy going, and I would love to see a few more CoCo people show up every year, and which we would get a crowd. We get some CoCo people, and I'd like to see a few more.
Did you ever get any official attendance numbers this year? It seems like there were more people there this year.
I do not have the number. I think at some point we were falling back to counting badges, and I know I had ordered 100 badges, and we distributed all those, and we had some left over from the year before, and they were distributing the 2023 badges, but I'm not sure we got a solid count on that. In fact, if we did, I don't have it. We are a little bit bursting at the seams with the current venue. Would be nice for us to find a slightly bigger venue, but it's a good problem to have. So,
well, you guys have big equipment at that show too.
Yeah, sometimes we do.
Yeah.
A lot of people bring in their 8-inch TRS-80s. Like I said, we usually have a pretty substantial auction. So there's a corner of the room devoted to auction items. We have some CoCo people. I wish we had a few more, but we do have some. It's a good event. I'm not sure what else to say about it. Boise, you like to come to the event. What do you think of it?
I do a number of events, as you know. I do VCFs, CoCo Fest, and Tandy Assembly. Tandy Assembly is right up there in terms of quality. It's closer, of course, to the CoCo and the system that I grew up with. It's a fantastic event. They're great speakers. The Friday event that everyone can go to for the classrooms are excellent. And it's a great event. I just encourage people to go to it. It is probably one of the highbrow events in the community in the sense of the kind of technical acumen of the attendees. It's quite good. And usually you'll see a celebrity too. We saw Steve Leininger this year, along with Don French. That was a treat. It's awesome.
Leininger was definitely a good get. I'm not sure who we're going to get this next year, but hopefully it'll be someone of comparable quality. Might be Boise. He might be our headline speaker this year.
I'm just a peon. When you think about it, we were kind of running out of those old soldier types. Leininger was the big one. I don't know who else is still from the Tandy side available who hasn't already been interviewed or known to the community. There might be some obscure person out there we haven't thought about that still can make it. It would be interesting to get Pete on the hunt on that.
Well, anyway, just wanted to put in a big plug for Tandy Assembly because it is a cool event, and I feel like we're not getting as much CoCo participation as we ought to, and I think the community would be better for it. So get that out there.
The amazing A-Bus from Alpha Products. A-Bus connects your computer to the real world. Simply plug in an A-Bus adapter to your color computer, Apple II, TRS-80, or PCXT compatible computer. Then add any combination of A-Bus I/O adapter cards. The A-Bus adapter allows the connection of 1 or 2 A-Bus I/O adapter cards. Or attach A-Bus motherboards that hold up to 5 A-Bus I/O adapter cards. Interconnect up to 5 A-Bus motherboards for an amazing total of up to 25 A-Bus I/O adapter cards. Use A-Bus cards to control, monitor, sense, and automate your world. A-Bus I/O adapter cards are easy to use with any programming language that can read or write to a memory address. From BASIC, use peek and poke or input and output commands to communicate with A-Bus I/O adapter cards. Each A-Bus I/O adapter card has a unique A-Bus address, easily set with onboard jumpers. Mix and match up to 25 A-Bus I/O adapter cards to fit your specific application. Choose from 10 different A-Bus I/O adapter cards. Relay card, read relay card, analog input card, 12-bit analog to digital card, digital input card, 24-line TTL I/O card, clock with alarm card, touch-tone decoder card, smart stepper controller card, stepper motor driver card, or create your own custom I/O adapter using an A-Bus prototyping card. The possibilities are endless. The amazing A-Bus. From Alpha Products, plug into the future. The A-Bus is not a replacement for a multi-pack interface. A-Bus cards are shipped with power supply and detailed manuals. Overseas orders add 10%.
AutoTerm turns your CoCo into the world's smartest terminal. scroll text forward and backward, save, load, and delete files while online. Full support for the RS-232 pack, X modem, and even split screen for packet radio. Screen widths of 32, 40, 42, 51, or 64, plus 80-column support for the CoCo 3. Switch instantly to word processing mode. Find strings instantly. Create text. Make corrections, save, or load files. Then upload them to a remote system. Fully compatible with Telewriter, plus full automation tools to automate dialing, keystroke, macros, uploading, and downloading. AutoTerm runs on the CoCo 2 and CoCo 3. No other computer can match your CoCo's intelligence as a terminal. AutoTerm from PXE Computing, Richardson, Texas.
One last bit of discussion for this evening. What do you think's coming ahead in the CoCo for the CoCo world in 2025?
Well, I would like to see more software, since it always seems to be the issue. Plenty of hardware, but not enough software.
Yeah, always seems to be a thing, right? Where there's some people who do only do software, and we need to get them to buddy up with some of the people who only do hardware. It's always getting people to work together on the projects.
Yeah, that's a tough part.
And a great way to do that, if they would all show up for something, like Tandy Assembly and Hobnob and get to know each other. I think that'd be a great thing, don't you?
Definitely. Yeah, that inspires good projects going to these shows, especially Tandy Assembly.
What about you, Ron? What do you think is going to happen in the CoCo world for 2025?
I'm not sure. I agree with the software side of things. It would be nice to see more software development. But as far as predictions or anything like that, I don't know. It'd be nice if somebody came up with a new project that hasn't been done before. I know it's difficult sometimes to think of ideas like that. I'm not sure whenever I think about this, I'm always wondering what's lacking. Like, what big gaping hole do we have right now in the CoCo community besides software development? I mean, from hardware seems like it's really been addressed for the most part. I mean, I guess the gimme chip was the one that is something that you really can't source too easily. Sounds like there's maybe some options in the future for that. Keyboard fixing, the Mylar stuff, I think that's been kind of addressed. That was always a difficult one. Salt chip. There's a few things out there that have kind of been addressed. So I think from the perspective of keeping your CoCo alive, I think there's some parts, but I don't know. What do you guys think is a big hole, something lacking beside the software, which I know is a big one?
Yeah, I don't know. This is an area where I kind of at various times have tried to throw the gears in reverse a little bit and think smaller. It's easy to get overwhelmed, think, well, if I do that, then it's kind of like this other thing, and that's already been done, and I have to make it really unique and awesome and whatever. And I've always thought you don't really need to make the stuff unique and awesome. You just need to do something. And so we see a little more of that these days with some of the people who are producing software seem to be doing it fairly regularly with games and stuff, that not to diminish what they're doing, but because certainly they are doing something, but a lot of times whatever they're doing doesn't look like rocket science. I mean, it's not Michelangelo level artistry on the graphics or whatever. It's biting off a reasonable sized chunk and then chewing it. Some of the games are pretty simple, and a lot of the older games from back in the day or whatever were, there were games that people could play on paper and with dice, tally marks and whatever else, and they've just managed to do a computer version of them. I think that's still valid. I mean, if you're into retro computing, you need to at least accept that you're not going to be doing 3D first-person shooters. You're going to be doing computerized board games or whatever. I think that's fine, and that's kind of the way I think up things to do. And maybe that's why I don't do very much, but I did for a while, and probably will again at some point when I find a little more free times or round to it, as people used to say. Mike, what do you think's coming in 2025?
Well, I wouldn't venture a guess. One thing I do pretty frequently is go out to the Color Computer Archive, and there still seems to be some stuff coming in, which is good. I'd like to see more of that. Certainly would encourage people that if they've got documentation or discs or chunks of code, that's the place where you should get uploaded. That's of a great value to the CoCo community. I think that's probably the best asset we have for the CoCo community. I mean, you can go grab all the old software. Now you can even run a lot of the code right there in the web if you want to take a look at it before you download it or whatever. That's always a great thing to do. There's still a lot of things out there that there's software for, but there's no documentation. So documentation is pretty important to upload. I'm wondering if anybody has any A-bus documentation, for example.
Oh my Lord. I don't know if you were baiting me with that, but I have a ton of A-bus documentation. I should have mentioned that in the eBay acquisitions too. I did manage to acquire a few more A-bus boards. I might have the biggest collection of A-bus boards of anyone, as far as I know, but I haven't heard of anyone else in the community that has them, but I've got a lot of them. I've got a lot of the documentation that goes with them, including the schematics and descriptions of how the A-bus addressing worked and all that sort of stuff. I should probably do a write-up on that, like a YouTube video or something.
Yeah, I wish you would, because I think that would, and that's kind of a sweet spot for the hardware as well. I mean, it'd be nice to kind of see somebody jump on that and actually reproduce something like that. It's a fairly easy hardware projects and fairly easy programming too. Might be interesting for the community to get into that a little.
That's true. I have a little collection of that stuff sitting right at my eye level in front of my desk. So I have no excuse. I see the stuff every day. Someday I'll have to get on that. Maybe that's a prediction for 2025.
There you go. I predict I'm going to harass you a lot about that in 2025.
All right. That leaves Boise. You have anything to any ideas for what's coming in 2025?
No.
Nothing?
Turbo 9. Yeah. I mean, I'm just focused on that. Really, that's the only thing I'm looking at the moment. Yeah. As far as CoCo, I'm sure it'll impact the color computer community somehow, maybe in 2025. But other than that, heads down. Sorry.
I got one last thing to add. For those of you on Facebook, and don't ask why I'm seeing stuff for Commodore 64s, but I think there was a photo going around of some woman running a donut shop on a Commodore 64, and it's people are posting it like crazy, so it's starting to get tiresome. But I wonder if there's any old color computers that could still be used for some of that stuff. I know we've talked about that in the past. I just thought it was funny seeing someone still use it for a donut shop point of sale system.
Well, not a CoCo project, but it could be.
Right. That's right.
Well, that would be excellent to see some reporting on. As for 2025, I guess if I get bored enough, maybe that Color Computer 2 kit will call to me. If I do build that kit, I'll be sure to take a few pictures and post it so people can groan and curse at me or for ruining the pristine historical nature of it. That, or eventually I'll offer it for sale or something. Who knows? Beyond that, the one thing I know that will happen in 2025 is come in the fall, we will have Tandy Assembly in Springfield, Ohio. So make your plans now. Save your money for your travel and come on out and see us. And that's something I definitely predict will happen in 2025. All right. Is that enough? Does that sum it up? I guess that'll do it.
CoCo Tuner makes tuning musical instruments a breeze. Precise enough for concert piano tuning. Easy to use for music students and teachers. The CoCo Tuner plugs into the cartridge slot of your color computer. Connect a microphone to the cartridge and you're ready to tune. A pitch comparison is displayed on your CoCo screen. Bands indicate whether you are below or above the correct frequency. Accurate within 0.003 hertz of middle C, CoCo Tuner can be used to tune any musical instrument. CoCo Tuner, just $89 from Real Time Specialties Incorporated, Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Multiple office structure fire. Engine 3, engine.
We interrupt our normal programming to bring you a News 5 exclusive.
Several buildings have been taken by mass gunmen. About 30 minutes ago, we began smelling acrid smoke, and it's believed that they are setting buildings on fire. We've been hearing gunfire, and we believe they are targeting first responders.
Let's go!
Firecopter 2-0, reporting direct. 2-0, engaging the first fire. This is a real fireball here. There appears to be somebody on the roof. They're shooting at us. Engaging hostile gunmen.
Firecopter from Adventure International.
Rated E for everyone.
Well, it's that time again. We've reached the end of the podcast. From all of us on the CoCo Crew Podcast, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you all for listening, and hope you enjoyed our holiday surprise episode. Until our next pop-up episode, happy CoCoing and retro forever.
It's a blast from the past.
Please listen carefully.
CoCo. 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 CoCo.
Dance like there's no tomorrow.
What is this crazy rock and roll music anyway? It's a blast from the past.
Dance, dance, dance. Dance, dance, dance. CoCo.